I started doing the show. I had the idea of the show in 2016, and I bought 2 GoPros off of Craigslist, and I got some suction cup mounts from Amazon, and I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to edit video. I didn't know how to talk. I don't want to say I didn't know how to talk to people, but I didn't really know how to interview people. I certainly had no idea how to edit video. And my biggest concern with editing video is that I don't make it look like some bad Japanese movie from the 1970s, right? Where the mouth is moving and the words aren't jiving with what they're saying. So that was my one of my biggest concerns. And so I had to learn how to edit video. And I ended up I said I was going to call it Writing Shotgun, and then I just interview folks. And then I said, I'm just going to interview gun folks, right? Make it all about guns. And I reached out to, I interviewed some of my local friends, a couple of gun instructors and some musicians. One of the guys I used to play in a band with, and just to practice, to learn how to do this. And then I reached out to Ken Blanchard, who's known as the Black Man with a Gun. He's in the DC area. Yeah, I love Reverend Ken, man. And I used to listen to his podcast, and I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm doing this thing. I want to interview you because it seemed like he was achievable. Like it seemed like he would say yes, right? Yeah. So he got back to me 2 hours after I emailed. He's like, hey, man, it sounds cool. I'm in. I'm like, this is great. So then I reached out to this other podcaster. His name is Anthony Calandro, and he's got a podcast called Gun for Hire. So I reached out to Anthony. I'm like, hey, man, I'm doing something new. I'd love to come down and interview you. And I never heard back from him. So it took me some time to set up a date with Ken, and I made plans. I was driving down to DC from Massachusetts, and I got a hotel for a night, and it was going to be a road trip, right? Like a 2-day road trip. It was going to be cool. As I'm going through Jersey, I see all these towns that Anthony Calandro mentioned, and I ended up pulling over into the James Gandolfini rest area in North Jersey, and I Google searched the Gun for Hire range, and it wasn't that far from where I was. So I'm like, I'm going to stop by. So I stopped in there, and I actually make videos playing the trumpet with one hand and shooting a gun with the other. And I made one of these for Anthony's birthday one year, and I was smoking a cigar, playing the trumpet, and shooting a gun at the same time. Right? It was all the senses going. So I said, hey, I went into Gun for Hire. I said, I just like to say hi to Anthony. I'm a big fan of the show. And he popped out. He looked at me and he says, you're the guy that plays the trumpet and shoots the gun, right? I'm like, I am. He's like, wait a second. And he comes out, he's got a couple of T-shirts and a hat and some stickers. He's like, this is for you. What are you doing in the area? And I was like, I'm going down to interview Ken Blanchard. And I said, I'm interviewing people in the car. I'm starting a new YouTube channel. And I'm going down to DC to interview Ken Blanchard. And he said, tell the Rev I said hi. And I was like, oh, did I just get a secret handshake? Like, what's going on here? So I had as I was talking with Anthony, I had the 2 little angels. One of them's like, tell him you emailed him. And the other one's like, don't tell him, he's a businessman. He didn't bring it up. He doesn't want to do the show. So I took a deep breath. I sucked it in. I'm like, I would love to interview you. I emailed you. Would you be interested in being on the show? And he's like, absolutely. Here's my phone number. Let me know when you're going to be back in town. I'm like, holy crap. So I drove down to DC. I got up the next morning. I interviewed Ken. I drove back to Jersey. I reached out to Anthony, interviewed Anthony, and I went home, and I was buzzing. I was completely buzzing. And I'm like, this is great. I don't know what to do with all this. I don't know how to edit video, but I have these shows on these memory cards, and I'm good to go. And then I was one of my friends, and this is bizarre how it works out, but this girl I was friends with back in 1994, she was in the clique of people I used to hang out with. She moved to Minneapolis. Her husband was a conservative talk show host. His name was Lee Michaels, and Lee had been robbed at gunpoint. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, I know you're, actually, this is even crazier. Lee's story ended up in the book Lessons from Unarmed America by Mark Walters and Rob Pincus.
Okay.
So I said, hey, I didn't know this was your husband, because I was like, hey, she's like, oh, my husband's a gun guy, and whatever. And then I found out he was robbed and he was in this book. So I'm like, I want to come out to Minneapolis and interview your husband. And we're working all the details out. And Lee says to me, if you come this particular weekend, Mark Walters from Armed American Radio is going to be here. I bet you could interview him. And I'm like, that's big time. This is great. So a month after I interviewed Anthony and Ken, I'm flying to Minneapolis for a weekend. I interviewed Lee, I interviewed Mark Walters, and I interviewed this other gentleman. His name is Peter Johnson. He's with Archway Defense. And he's showing me, he's like, this is what you do with videos. I'm like, I don't know how to edit videos. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I got to interview these guys. Mark reached out to me the next day and he said, hey, do you want to, he says, I want to help out with this because this is really cool what you're doing, interviewing people in the car. I'm like, all right, cool. So sounds like a plan. I don't know what he's talking about, but I'll take whatever help I can get. And then he called me 2 days after that. And he says, would you like to speak at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Tampa, Florida in a month? And I'm like, yes, I would. I would love to.